Okay, let's just dive right in. This is the fight that has absolutely everyone talking, arguing, and, let's be honest, scratching their heads. You've got a two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world squaring off against a YouTuber who has completely turned the boxing world on its head. So how on earth did we get here? And what's really on the line? Let's break it all down. You know, this quote from the very first press conference just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up the feeling around this whole thing. It's what fans are thinking, what the experts are saying, and I bet it's even what some people inside the fighters' camps are thinking. Is this really happening? Well, the answer is a big, resounding yes, and it is a collision of two completely different worlds. And what a collision it is. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have Anthony Joshua. We're talking an Olympic gold medalist, a two-time champ, a guy who sold out massive stadiums and fought the absolute best of the best. And on the other side, Jake Paul, the problem child, a social media phenom who's used his huge online following to build this incredibly lucrative and, yeah, pretty controversial boxing career. This really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It just flies in the face of all traditional boxing logic. A fighter like Joshua should be chasing those undisputed titles, not tangling with crossover stars. So why is he taking this fight? The answer, as you're about to see, is a whole lot more complicated than you might think. It's about money, it's about media, and it is one heck of a strategic gamble. To really wrap your head around just how wild and intriguing this matchup is, we have to start with the physical reality of it all. So let's look at the tail of the tape, because believe me, the numbers alone tell a pretty shocking story. Let's start with this number right here, 53 pounds. That was the absolutely massive difference in weight between Anthony Joshua in his last fight and Jake Paul in his. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that's like the difference between a lightweight and a cruiserweight. Weight classes exist for a very, very good reason, and this fight just kind of throws that reason right out the window. But honestly, these numbers on the screen, they only tell part of the story. The real gap here is in the quality of their experience. Just look at the knockouts. AJ has 25 KOs against world-class killer heavyweights. Paul has 6, mostly against former MMA guys and boxers who were well past their prime. One of these guys is a decorated champion who has been in the deepest waters imaginable. The other is a marketing genius who has picked his opponents very, very carefully. Until now.
But hey, don't get it twisted. Despite the mismatch on paper, this is a fully sanctioned professional fight. It's going on their records, they're using 10-ounce gloves, that's standard for heavyweights, and it means maximum damage. It's scheduled for 8 rounds, which, might actually favor Paul. And here's a really key detail. Joshua has a weight cap. He cannot weigh in over 245 pounds, which is a little concession to the much smaller guy.
So if the physical matchup seems, well, kinda nuts, the financial part of it brings everything into crystal clear focus. This right here is the real main event. Because when you peel back all the layers of this spectacle, you find the one thing that makes it all make perfect sense. 140 million pounds. That is the reported prize money for this fight, which is going to be split between the two of them. This single number answers that why question better than anything else possibly could. It's the kind of payday you just can't say no to. And this quote just nails it. Joshua's own promoter, Eddie Hearn, he laid it out for everyone, plain and simple. He said they were planning a much smaller, low-key comeback fight for AJ. But then this phone call happened, the chance to make 50 times more money. As Hearn put it, what would you do if you were in AJ's shoes? And the engine driving all that cash? It's Netflix. By streaming this fight directly to their gigantic global subscriber base, they are completely flipping the boxing business model on its head. This isn't just about one fight. It's a potential roadmap for the future of combat sports. You bypass that old pay-per-view system to reach an audience of a scale the old guard could only dream of, and you make both of these guys even bigger global stars overnight. But this fight isn't just about money and muscles. It's also this really fascinating psychological battle. And at that first press conference, we got a really clear window into the mindsets of both of these guys as they get ready for this, well, let's call it an unorthodox challenge. And Jake Paul is just leaning into his role perfectly. He knows people think he's out of his mind. He even calls it delusional optimism. And honestly, that's his superpower. He's built his entire career on believing he can do things that everyone else says are completely impossible. And he's using that unbreakable self-belief as his main weapon against a guy who has, in the past, shown some vulnerability. And Joshua's response? Man, it could not be more different. He is calm, he's measured, he's almost detached from it all. He refuses to get sucked into the circus. His message is so simple. I'm a professional, this is my job, and I'm here to do it. He's treating Paul not like some celebrity, but just like any other opponent standing in his way. A job that needs to get done. And you know, Paul isn't just talking trash here, he's being very strategic. By constantly bringing up Joshua's shocking upset loss to Andy Ruiz, another opponent everyone underestimated, he's trying to plant a little seed of doubt. He's reminding Joshua and the rest of the world that he's been beaten before when everyone expected him to win easily. So all of this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question. Beyond the money, beyond the mind games, what does this fight really mean for their careers? What is actually on the line for these two guys? You know, when you really stop and look at what each fighter is risking, it becomes so obvious that the pressure is not being shared equally here. Not at all. One of these guys is basically playing with house money, while the other is gambling his entire legacy. Jake Paul is convinced all the pressure is on Joshua, and he's not wrong. The entire world expects AJ to win, and not just win, but win in spectacular fashion. Paul's whole theory is that if he can just survive those early rounds, if he can land a few clean punches, the pressure on the champion is going to become unbearable. He's betting that Joshua's cookie will crumble. And here's the really crucial context. Anthony Joshua is coming off a brutal knockout loss to Daniel Dubois. A deep dive into that fight showed that his ability to take a punch might be fading, and it pointed out some major defensive flaws, like carrying his lead hand way too low. He is not the invincible champion that he used to be, and that adds a very, very real layer of danger to this fight. He's vulnerable. So let's just sum it all up, right? For Anthony Joshua, a win is just what's expected. But a loss? A loss to a YouTuber? Would be a career-defining humiliation that he might never, ever recover from. For Jake Paul, the risk is practically zero. If he loses, well, he did exactly what everyone thought he would. But if he wins, he pulls off one of the biggest upsets in the history of boxing and becomes a legitimate global superstar. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one question. Is this a legitimate sporting contest between two professional athletes? Or is it just a pure spectacle fueled by celebrity and cash that's blurring the lines of what boxing is even supposed to be? When that first bell rings, I guess we'll finally find out where this bizarre, fascinating, and undeniably massive event truly belongs.